Hi, Teri here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is a treat box or gift box. I've used the Gnomes dies to create this and also paper from the latest In Colour collection. This is Tahitian Tide. The Gnomes dies coordinate with the Kindest Gnomes stamp set. The box is 3 3/4 inches wide and tall and 1 1/8 of an inch deep. The closure is on the back. And inside I have some chocolate treats. But you could easily place a small gift inside. To close the box, you just wind the baker's twine around the circles and brads. So, let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. I'm going to make the box using smoky slate cardstock. Now I have two pieces here. The larger one is for the bulk of the box, but I have a separate piece that I'm using for the lid. You want to place the larger piece into the Simply scoreboard with the long side across the top and score down at 3 3/4 inches, 4 7/8 of an inch, 8 5/8 of an inch, and 9 3/4 inches. Then if you quarter turn clockwise, so the short side is across the top, and score down at 1 1/8 of an inch. And here's Lulu come to say hello. Now she's wearing a bodysuit because she's just been spayed. Okay, next we're going to score the smaller piece, which is the lid, and this goes into the Simply scoreboard with the short side across the top. Then I'll score down at 1/2 an inch and 1 5/8 of an inch. There's a little cutting to be done on each of these pieces. On the lid you have a 1/2 inch score and the 1 5/8 inch score. On each end of the 1/2 inch section you want to make a slanted cut. Now on the opposite end I'm going to use the Very Best Trio punch and shape both the corners. You can use any sort of corner punch to do this. You could round the corners or you could just shape them by hand. On the main piece, down in the bottom right corner, you have a small scored rectangle. This will be removed. Now I'm also going to make a little slanted cut on the 1/2 inch tab on each end of it above it. Thank you, Lulu. Now along the baseline I'm going to cut up all the scored lines, and then on the square tabs that are created I'm going to slant cut those sides as well. So I'm going to remove that corner rectangle first of all, and then I'll make a small slanted cut at the top and the bottom of the 1/2 inch tab. Then I'm going to cut up all the scored lines on the base, coming just inside the score line on the larger tabs, and then I'm going to slant cut the side edges of the square tabs. I can now fold on all the scored lines and burnish them with my bone folder. I'm going to make a small half circle cut at the top of the back section. Now the front section is the large section with a side piece joined on each side. The back section just has one side piece joined and the other side is free. So that's the section that I'm going to make the cut on. Now normally I would use a circle punch to do this, but as all our circle punches have now retired, I'm going to use a die this time. You haven't seen me use a die to make this half circle before. Now the dies I'm going to use are the Stylish Shapes, and it's the smallest circle. Before die cutting the part circle, I'm going to mark the halfway point on the top of the back section. Then I can use this to place the circle die before running it through my machine. Also with this die, I've gone ahead and die cut 2 sweet sorbet circles. This is for the closure. I'll also need 2 small brads. I'm using some of our retired silver brads. You can use any that you have. I'm going to mark the center point on the sweet sorbet circles and then use my piercing tool to pierce a hole. I'm now going to mark the position for the hole on the lid. Now I want this to be halfway across and approximately an inch inwards. Then I can pierce the hole. Now for the hole on the back, you want to hook the lid over the top edge of the back, and then I'm going to use the hole I've already pierced to guide me to position the back one. So I'm just doing this by eye, and I'm going to come down about an inch from the bottom of the lid and then pierce the hole. Now I can thread the brads through each of the circles and then position one on the back and the other one on the lid. When you open up the prongs on the back, keep them fairly loose because you want to be able to wrap that baker's twine around them easily. I can now add the lid to the top edge of the front panel by applying glue to the 1/2" tab on the lid and pressing the front panel onto it. I'm going to add the decorative mats to the front of the box while the box is still flat. Now I have a Tahitian tied cardstock mat and a Tahitian tied Designer Series paper mat for the front. So I can layer these together and then position them on the front panel. To make up the box, I'm going to add glue to the 1/2" tab on the side and then press the opposite end onto it. To make up the base, you want to fold the back tab in first of all, add glue to the remaining 3 tabs. The sides go down first of all and then the front tab. This leaves a nice clean edge on the front. I'm using some of our white baker's twine to form the closure, and this comes from our Essentials pack. I'm going to add the chocolates to the inside, and this is a nice tight fit. Then I can take the baker's twine and wrap it around the circles and brads. So I wrap it around the top brad first of all, and then in a figure of 8 around the bottom, and then the top again before trimming the ends. I've gone ahead and die cut all the pieces I need to create my dancing gnome, and I use the Gnomes dies for this. In the set you have outline dies for all of the images in the Kindest Gnomes stamp set, and then you have all these other dies that will make up a separate gnome and also give you additional items that will build your scene. I've die cut the beard from Smoky Slate card, the hat and the feet from Sweet Sorbet. This little die here will create a little hole if you want to make some tags. I'm not using that today. The nose I've die cut from pale papaya as well as the toadstool stems. I've die cut the grass from Parakeet Party card, and you want 2 of those. And you also want 2 of the toadstools. I've done 1 of each. These dies, they look the same, but they are slightly different. And I've die cut those from Sweet Sorbet. Now, in addition, you need this extra little piece, and this is going to be for the mechanism to make your gnome dance. Now, this is 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters, or 1 5/8 of an inch by 1 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't have to be precise. I'm going to start with the little mechanism, and all I need to do is mark sort of the center area towards the top. Now I'm going to punch a hole, and I'm using our retired 1/2 inch circle punch. You want to use a circle, and it needs to be quite small. As long as it's bigger than the dimensional or piece of dimensional that you're going to use, that will be fine. So I've punched out the circle, but as you can see, it's not quite centered on that top edge. So I'm just going to take a slither off of one of the sides to center it up, and that's better. So the size of this mechanism is just approximate. I'm going to add some additional colour to the die cuts, just so they don't look completely flat. And all I'm doing is colouring the areas that are embossed. So around the hat you have some stitching, so I'm just going over that. And I'm using Sweet Sorbet Dark Blends marker for this one. Now for the beard, I'm using the Dark Smoky Slate Blends marker. The Dark Parakeet Party for the grass, I've already done one. I'm using the Dark Pale Papaya for the toadstool stems. And I'm just doing little lines on these just to add a little interest. For the nose, I'm going to start with the Dark Pale Papaya, and I'm going to colour in the top and the bottom area, leaving a gap in the middle. Then I'll use the light, and I'll go over the whole thing to blend it before going over the dark areas again. Now you can't see much at the moment, but this will show more when it's dry. I'm going to cut one of the grasses and change the shape of it. I'm using 2, and I don't want both of them to have exactly the same shape. I want this one to be smaller. The mechanism piece is attached to the top of the trousers. So I've added a line of glue at the bottom of the mechanism and then just place the trouser piece on top of it. You want to make sure it's centered on that top edge. The hat is attached to the beard piece, and you've got a guide on the embossing at the top of the beard. So I apply my glue to the side pieces and then to the top of the nose section. Then you can place the hat over that. I'm now going to add a mini dimensional onto the back of the nose, remove the backing, and then I can position that, and again just follow the guide on the top of the beard. You need to determine how low you want the beard to be on the feet. Now I haven't got a lot of room to play with on the front of my box, so I'm going to bring the beard right down. But you could have it higher up if you've got the room for it, so more of the feet show. So I'm going to hold the beard in position and make sure it doesn't move, and then flip it over, and I'm going to add a mini dimensional onto the back, and I'm going to position it so one of the straight edges on the dimensional is in the center at the top of the circle. I'm going to add further dimensionals onto the side to stop the feet swinging too far out. So I've got my dimensional ready. Now I've picked up my gnome and I'm going to position the feet so they're as far to the right as I want them. So if I do them too far, you'll see it looks a bit odd. So I want them about there. So I'm going to again hold it in position, then flip it over and place a dimensional along the edge of the mechanism, so that will act as a stopper on the right hand side. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the left hand side. So I'm going to swing the feet to the left. Again, you don't want to go too far. And then flip it over and add another dimensional on that edge. And then I can just check that the legs swing how I want them to. I've added more dimensionals on the back. You want to make sure that you don't place these in the way of the mechanism. Okay, so when you've added them, just make sure those feet still swing as you want them to. I've removed the backings on the dimensionals and now I can add the mechanism. Now I'm going to make sure that it's in the right position, and then I'm going to hold it in that position with my tweezers before placing it onto the front of my box. And you can now give it a little test swing. Be careful of where you add the two grass pieces. You don't want them to get in the way of the swinging feet. And that's my little box complete with my dancing gnome. Now I have made a coordinating card to go with it. The sentiment comes from the Peaceful Moments stamp set. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.